Again, I appreciate you, bro, for getting on the show. This is Talented Tuesdays, home of brought to you by the Goldenkey Foundation. For my guests that's tuning in for the first time, I'll repeat the same thing for you guys. It's Talented Tuesdays, brought to you by the Goldenkey Foundation. I'm your host, Kai Speaks, aka Mr. One Chain, aka Mr. 215 305, aka Mr. Cheney. Hey, okay, Herson said that looks a lot better. Appreciate you, bro. So, on the show, we got people who tune in, they got comments and questions. I also have my questions for you as well. It's about 8 to 10 of them. But we're going to try and make it like a conversation. And then throughout the show, people that's tuned in, they feel free to ask their questions as well, leave comments. But one thing for me to let y'all know is make sure those comments are nice and positive, keep the negativity out of here. We want everybody to feel open to share their opinions and everything like that on the show. So without further ado, again, Matt, I appreciate you for getting on the show. Matt is one of my homies from Cheney that I went to school with. He's like one of the kings that really helped the communications major at Cheney thrive while he was doing it. I remember particularly being on a couple of your shows that you was having, like a couple of the radio shows you was doing for like projects and stuff like that while at Cheney. Specifically, one being about being Mr. Cheney, and then another one about Greek life at Cheney. So, kudos to you for starting those things up. That was a good experience for me, for my personal development. So, again, I want to thank you, Matt. But, just take this time to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, what you're doing now, and what you got going on for yourself.
Well, first off, thank you. Like I said, definitely takes me back. I enjoy doing those, the radio shows and all that, because like I said, it got us in the studio, it got y'all, and got people listening. So dope experience for you and for me, kind of catapulted me from there. But my name, Matt Corbin, Raheem the Dream, Instagram, Twitter, and all those other places. Originally, I'm from New York, but I relocated to Allentown, finished high school there. And that's pretty much how I got to Cheney. I was at a school, predominantly white high school. They figured I wanted some diversity. I landed there in a year from Cheney, communications major, Keystone Honors Academy. I ran like a nonprofit called the Good Neighbors Foundation with a buddy of mine. We did an event where we paired up with Westchester just to better community relations. I believe Q worked on that. A bunch of his buddies, a bunch of us, collaborated, SGA. And then you fast forward to now, like I said, I've had some health problems that Q had mentioned earlier. So I'm headed towards two to three possible surgeries later this year. So y'all keep me in my prayers. So because of that, I've actually been I'm technically homebound. I'm supposed to be home at all times on a pick line, 12 to 15 hours a day. So in the midst of that, I've been just creating, and I got a podcast called Negro Please with Matt Corbin. We're on iTunes, we're on iHeart. We're waiting to get on Spotify this week. I've got merchandise coming for that. I just have a whole bunch of things that I've been doing writing-wise, obviously to make money for myself, keep my mind going, because, I'm home, so ain't nothing much what to do. But, in the midst of that, like I said, Q reached out. I've been watching these Talented Tuesdays for a while now, great content, so happy that he chose me to be part of it. And, whatever questions he asked me, like I said, I'm here to answer. Jemiah, what's going on? And,
Hey, I'm glad for you to be a part of this, too. We're definitely going to be keeping you in the prayers with the surgeries you got coming up. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit later, as how you were able to balance the surgeries and your health with your platform and communications with Negro Please and everything like that. But, the first question I could really have for you is, why communications? What made you really chase after communications going to Cheney?
Funny story about that is my major was chemistry when I first came to Cheney. First semester, a lot of people don't know that, but I also got sick the first semester, and that actually turned me away from the medical field indefinitely because of that. And communications, actually, it was referred to me by people who knew me. They said, you're personable. You seem like you would like that atmosphere. And they was like, from high school, like especially, like I said, I came from the hood, so my linguistics weren't always the best, my diction, things like that. So as I got better, they were like, wow, you have a strong voice and you speak well. Communications is your route. I got into it, and then at Cheney, I found out I liked it. Like I said, I liked being in the radio. I liked doing press releases. I liked the whole media atmosphere, because I realized that really controls what we know, what we learn, and everything. So from there, I was like, I'm gonna just ride this out. And when you're good at when you like what you do, you'll be good at it. And that's pretty much how it went from there. Grades got good, my material got good. Like I said, I did the Good Neighbors thing. I just continued to create, and you just believe in yourself. And yeah, that was really how it stuck.
Okay, and now do you say that, because I remember you saying like your diction wasn't too good, you know, your vernacular and things like that, your linguistics. Do you say that improved, like, what came first? Did you like work on that as you like build it up to get the change, or did like this improve more until you got into communications?
It improved once I got into communications because it wasn't so much that I wasn't intelligent. I knew the different words, but the settings that I was in, I had never had a reason to have to speak in those terms. So I never did. But when I got to Cheney, and like I said, I was in Keystone Honors Academy, so we were meeting millionaires and different executives and people. So when they would speak to you, you just notice some, vocabulary they use. And I noticed, I started reading more when I got to Cheney. So just expanding my vocabulary. And then, like I said, somebody in the middle of the second semester when we came back, because when I came back second semester, I was undecided. I had already dropped the major for chemistry. I actually had no major at the time. And they were like, I think this would be a fit for you. And we ran with it.
Appreciate that. And for everybody who's just now tuning in, I see some new folks. Shout out Shop New Millennium, as well as Mr. Ramos. For those who don't know, this is Tyler Tuesdays. You can feel free to leave some questions for Matt in the comment section, comment, kudos, and everything like that. Just keep the comment section positive. But I got some more questions that I'll be hitting Matt with. But this is Tyler Tuesdays brought to you by the Goldenkey Foundation. So, with your show, and we talked about your health and you having to take care of your health, and what you also having to worry about the show that you have. What are some of the sacrifices so far that you had to really make for the show?
Well, for starters, obviously, like I said, with being homebound and things like that, I've sacrificed a lot of jobs stuff because a lot of people, if you don't know, I graduated with Q back in May of 2017. I was tentative to start a training for a job in August. That obviously never happened. It got pushed back to October due to the surgery complications. That didn't happen. So that was the biggest thing, just sacrificing certain opportunities because I didn't know when I would go back. And then as far as, the podcast, you even sacrifice like some time and just some stuff because sometimes I don't feel the best, but that is in my head, I'm like, all right, I've still got to put a show out because, I built up something consistent. And everything just, as far as the first season, worked perfect. My idea was 10 episodes, and I did the 10. I saw how it fared. And then, like I said, it's almost as like just God had a plan because it seemed like my health started to get a little bad. Like I had like a little flare, and that was why I went on a little hiatus. But I knew when I was going to bring it back. And then this episode was perfect because I'm only 2 weeks out from bringing it back. So it all lined up. But yeah, just like I said, jobs and different opportunities because I just don't know how everything's going to pan out yet.
Right. And so let's bring it back just a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about what Negro Please is about, that platform that you're trying to create. Just tell us a little bit more as the layout of that show.
Okay, so just the beginning roots of it. Obviously, I want to do a talk show of sorts. I just figured, I know a lot about sports and music, but I wanted to make it concise. A friend of mine, Winston Wright, his mother actually, just from things that she's heard about me and, a few times we've spoken, she actually had the concept for the show. She pretty much was like, Matt, I think you're a real smart individual, but a lot of times people that look like you and maybe particularly sound like you, people don't want to hear the things you may speak about. And she was like, they'll think, man, Negro, please. So when she said it, we just kind of looked at each other like, she's on to something. And we ran with it. And the soundbite for the Negro Please is actually my mother. I was in the hospital when I got the idea. I told my mother, and she recorded the sound bit on my iPhone for me. And we just kept it. And we added that into the intro. And then from there, like I said, I ended up doing sports. And I came up with like these Sultan sports and, just different names like to call myself just to differentiate myself. And I just gave it like substance. I put a lot of vintage hip hop beats in the background when I'm speaking. And then, like I said, I invite the audience in. Like I built a family-like atmosphere. So I want people to think Negro Please. I want you to argue. I want you to ponder. And then from there, like I said, the sports section just got better. And then I had people, hitting me up on Instagram saying, hey, Matt, I would love if you talked about this at the end. And then the tears are temporary. That's the big thing. That's going to be one of the first big pieces of merchandise. My homie was like, yo, on Rev's Run show, he always said, God is love, Rev Run. He was like, you need something to end it with. And the tears are temporary. He couldn't, relate to my life more, and I just ran with it.
Mm-hmm. So we got a question from Just Hurst. Shout out to you for asking this question, Hurst. And that is, could you tell us about how you go about code switching? So you're talking about you working on your linguistics and everything like that. Tell us how you go about code switching.
Okay, so the code switching for me is generally pretty easy now, but in the beginning it's hard because sometimes you need to sometimes it's better just to observe. Like, you know, sometimes listening really helps, because when you listen to how somebody speaks to others that they know, now you know what to generally expect when you go speak to them. But the code switch, like I said, it's not too hard. You know, I do live in Allentown. I'm still intact with hip hop and things like that, so I know the slang and vernacular. But like I said, when you speak to an individual, like I said, more so just listen, you know what to expect as far as conversation. And if you're not sure, you let them lead. You know what I mean? Like, you let them drop slang first. You let them say certain terms, because then you know, okay, if they're comfortable with it, you ease your way in there. You know, if you're not sure, don't never put yourself in. But as long as you do that, you'll always be safe. And you know, different people I'm around. You know, white people, Caucasian people, Indians, Asians, doesn't matter. A lot of times, just let them lead. You follow, and you go from there.
Yeah, that's a good strategy too. So I know you also mentioned right before that question how you get, you know, Instagram messages and DMs, like you saying how you should try this topic and talk about that, and you mainly focus on sports. Do you see yourself venturing out into other areas of conversations, like, you know, social conversations, or even anything besides sports, basically?
Yeah, I should have said that too. Politics, I actually do cover on it. A lot of people are like, whoa, like, you know, that's usually a taboo thing. And again, for myself especially, I know it's taboo, but I actually am pretty well versed in politics. So I'll touch on politics. Trump is, you know, my quote unquote favorite guy right now. So I touch on Trump a lot, actually. He's the pun of my jokes. A lot of people know, you know, my Instagram, I do comedy too. So it's a comedic take on a lot of things that's going on. Like I said, I'll catch up on something that you might have seen in the shade room, but I'm also talking about Trump. You know, before I get into even the sports and even the end, where it's the deep stuff that people ask me about. I might talk about I talked about the food stamp thing. I talked about Larry Nassar when he got caught molesting those girls with the United States gymnastics team. So whatever's going on in current news, I'm talking about. But again, during the week, it's just doing good enough research so that when you speak, especially in my attempt, because, you know, a lot of times I do make light of certain situations just to put it in context, but you want to speak and sound well informed. You know, you want people to be like, okay, he knows what he's talking about, but this is funny and this is relatable. I can vibe to this for 35 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then they tune in every week, and you just build a following.
Yeah, you got to follow them automatically like that. And you kind of answered my next question, and that was like, how do you figure out your next skit or your next bit, what you're going to talk about for the next episode? Like, do these things sort of just come to you? I know you look at the shape, things like that, but what's that process like when you say, oh, that's interesting?
Well, the process I read, you know, obviously I look on, social media like everybody else, but I also look into like more credible sources and, you know, credible quote unquote CNN. And then I do have a team around me. I got my friends, you know, like I said, they support what I do. So they might hit me with a topic or something. Like, I'll never forget I talked about transgender Barbies in one episode. I didn't see the link, but a buddy of mine did. And it was a real thing. And I couldn't believe it. So I was like, all right, we can run with this. So a lot of times they'll run stuff by me because they know that my mind is in that mode. And they know when I go in to record. And then, like I said, my editor, Winston Wright, shout out to him. He helps with a lot of ideas. A lot of things I come up with, he'll tell me, you know, hey, I don't think so. This is good. Like I said, you know, so he's probably my biggest critic, but I love it.
So there's not an actual process. It's more so you get ideas and you get right in the booth and just start talking about what's on your mind, basically.
Well, what's on my mind, but when I go in there, I'm informed. Like, I've read up on this stuff before I just go in there. So I am freestyling in the sense of when I go in there, it's whatever comes to mind, but it's whatever comes to mind based on the stuff I've already read. Like I said, it's all stored. So if I ever could show somebody my phone, I might have the topics written down and then the ideas. Like, it's like I might have a keyword. Like, if you ever took a test and you see a keyword on there, and you're like, all right, I can relate that keyword to X, Y, and Z. That's how I relate. And then, like I said, as far as the comics and the jokes, I'm just that kind of person. As far as I'm lighthearted, I'm always laughing. So it's nothing to throw in a Trump joke. It's nothing to throw in a joke about something when I already know it because I've read, you know. So it's just preparation. And like I said, he's very helpful with the beats and making sure this sounds good. It's a process, but we love
it. Hey, I see Uptown Bliss just hopped on the conversation saying
that's Winston.
But that's Winston?
Yeah.
What's good, Winston? How you been, bro? Hey, so like my next question for you, with the show that you got going on, and what are some things that you learned new about yourself in the process of keeping this thing going?
I would definitely say that I learned that when I'm in the room, you know, alone recording this type of stuff, even though I know it's coming out to y'all, I'm more honest about certain things. As far as there's a lot of things that I probably wouldn't reveal necessarily on my Instagram that I will in my podcast because I'm speaking it. Because sometimes in a minute video, you can't get out what you want. But in 30, 35 minutes, like I said, there's a few episodes that I've recorded literally in the hospital bed. So it gets real introspective because it's not so much now about, you know, what I want to present to these people. It's about, yo, like I'm recording this to y'all here. Like this is where I'm at right now. So it just gives the people a more personal feel, like I said, stuff into my life that I might not reveal anywhere else. If you tune into that, you know everything that's going on.
All right, I feel that. So, with learning more about yourself, you have to start to build a certain level of confidence about yourself. And start to invest in yourself more. What are some of the investments that you made with Negro Please, even outside of Negro Please? Investments that
Hold on, can you just repeat the last part of that again?
what are some of the investments that you had to make for Negro Please to be up and where it is today? Or even outside of Negro Please, what are some of the investments that you had to make?
Well, as far as Negro Please, like I said, when I first made it, I knew I wanted to be something big. So you start early on, even before you build the following. If you know you want merchandise, you do a little research. So I started putting money away for when T-shirts and hoodies get around. As far as getting a podcast up and running, you're gonna have to have a host site. That's gonna cost you a month. It's not a big fee, but it is money. You know, it's gonna cost you roughly the same thing you would pay for Apple Music or Tidal or what have you. You put that out. And then, you know, depending on who your team consists of, you might have to go out and, you know, buy a mic or whatever, Pro Tools or whatever you're going to use editing software. So depending on how professional you really want this to be and depending on really how much you believe in yourself, because you can go out and get BS equipment and get, you know, subpar software. But if you know you're going to really work to build that following, hey, bet on yourself. And I was in a perfect position for that because, like I said, I was, you know, my future of life was just so, you know, up in the air. It was like, you know, why not? I have nothing to lose, nothing but time, and it, you know, it just helps keep my mind too, mind moving off of all the other stuff.
Right. And so, what's some advice that you might leave for somebody that's like starting from scratch and wants to start their own podcast or something, but doesn't necessarily know where to start in terms of resources?
Well, the first thing I would say you do is you find out what you know with the back, like the back of your hand, because whatever you know like the back of your hand is going to be fun, and even the stuff that you learn is going to be easy to come to you because you already like it. And as far as resources, I would say, you know, if you don't have it financially, obviously you start cheap. You could start recording with something as easy as your iPhone. If you got an iPhone and you don't have nothing else, you can start recording on here. And as far as the softwares, there are free ones out there, like Audition is a free one, I believe. And the other ones are getting, you know, beside me right now, but there are free versions. And then from there, like I said, you record the low quality stuff and you build up your following. And when you see, you know, that you're getting what you can and you got the money now, that's when you might go out and buy a mic, or you might go out and find somebody that can mix and master it, like a record. You know, the same thing. Like these are essentially talking records, and in my case, I'm putting background music in it, so this is literally almost like spoken word over a beat. And like I said, people do notice the quality difference, and you know, people tune in. You know, iTunes, you get ad dollars. It's not a whole bunch of money in the beginning, but you know, it just builds up. You go from there.
Okay.
But yeah, I just say you just push it.
Now, where do you go to get your background music? Cause do you face like copyright infringement oftentimes or anything like that?
You don't face copyright infringement as long as you have instrumentals playing, which I do because I'm a talk show. If you do want to get music, you know, eventually later on down the line, you can throw it in there, but there's certain record labels that still have copyright issues. Like I know if you've ever heard like the Joe Budden podcast, he has music, but it's usually from lesser known artists or like somebody who's underground that's not signed because like Atlantic, for instance, they don't want their music being played on podcasts, period. They don't want to pay you to do it. They just don't want it done. So, but yeah, as long as you're doing instrumentals and you're good to go. And me, like I said, I use very obscure samples some episodes too that, you know, it would have to be somebody, you know, it's somebody who's probably dead in a lot of cases. It would have to be somebody who have to dig into that and find me. But nah, iTunes is pretty cool with that as long as it's instrumental.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked is because I'm checking my email, and lately I've been seeing that I've been getting a ton of emails from YouTube just letting me know, like, hey, a copywriter just, you know, they claimed this track that you're using, because I use instrumentals on mine too, and I didn't even like you ever just go on YouTube and just type instrumental or da 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 type beat, like you looking for a specific, looking for a type of beat like that artist. I just do that. And I'm still, you know, I still get the copyright. Somebody claimed it as copyright and everything like that. So I just want to know if you face those same things with iTunes.
Oh no, I face the same thing on YouTube. So you know, YouTube they don't play. I face the same thing, and I had there was a Hope by I want to say Jill Scott, and it was just the instrumental. So yeah, they got me to it was like yeah, copyright. And what they did is they let me keep the video, but muted the music out. So
yeah, you can keep the video, but what I learned is they block it to be accessible from certain people's mobile YouTube app.
Okay.
Because like I learned to share the video, like when I share the YouTube video to some people, they'll be like, "Hey, this link don't work," or they'll say it says copyright. You know, you get the little fuzzy TV screen on YouTube, so you can't watch the video. Yeah, so they'll let you keep it up, but some people may not be able to watch it depending on where they're at, whatever the case may be. I don't know.
Good to know.
Yeah. So with that, I see some new people that just tuned in as well. Talk to Tuesdays, you know the deal. You can always ask some questions. This is Matt Corbin, our guest for tonight, talking about his platform and radio podcast called Negro Please. Also, speaking of Negro Please, you also are a pretty funny guy. Have you ever tried like stand up and things? You know, you're very well spoken, so it's easy for you to get up in front of crowds for the most part and be able to express yourself verbally. So have you ever tried stand-up comedy?
I have not been able to, and the reason two reasons really. Allentown doesn't have many open mics locally, so when I do get a little healthy, I am definitely going to do it because I'm gonna be honest, like going back to that writing thing, if I had to guesstimate as far as like written down comedy, I probably got about 3 hours worth of material. So I would say, yeah, I'm definitely ready to do it. You know, like I said, it's more about building the confidence, but I think just through the podcast and all that, I feel like I'm ready to potentially get booed or whatever have you, because like I said, it's just like, hey, you ain't gonna know till you try. But nah, definitely, yeah, it's something that has always been in the back of my mind. So as soon as I'm healthy enough, it's happening.
Man, you would love a spot like down here in Miami, man. There's open mics everywhere. You could just find a random hookah lounge and you end up walking into an open mic. Especially if you're down in Wynwood, which is like the artsy area down here in Miami. But you would love it. For real.
Now I'm definitely, like I said, as I build up myself, I'm definitely my travel in Miami. I mean, it's East Coast. That's a 2-hour flight from Philly, so that ain't nothing.
Real. So, do you see like any new opportunities or new doorways that are being opened up since you started Negro Please?
Yeah, like people have, like I said, reached out. Even just a guy actually I knew years ago. We do collaborative funny videos. His name is Nick on here. That and just people have reached out to me. There's I want to say it's a tattoo lounge or whatever here locally in Allentown. They're very interested. Eventually, they want me to sponsor some of their products on my Instagram. So that's another thing I've been looking to do is building up my Instagram, like I said, so that when the opportunities do come, they're like, all right, yeah, hey, we know he's funny, we like him, and he has the following here. So let's pay this guy to do this, pay him to do that. But yeah, for me, it's just about foundation and building. And for the most part, people come back. Like people, they rock with me consistently. So I'm loving from there.
So like, who's your target market? Like, who are the people that you really trying to speak out to really be a part of the show?
My target market really is mainly people my age of all, shapes, colors, and sizes, because a lot of us, we're old enough where we can handle, my content sometimes does get vulgar, so we're old enough where we can handle the content that I'm speaking about, and we're also mature enough where sometimes it hits home. Like I said, people will call me and they'll be like, just one off the top of my head, hey, Matt, in the episode 2 brought me to tears, in the episode 5, really made me think, in the episode 7 made me mad. So I know I'm reaching those people, and again, I find that most of us, we're like how you are, we just got out of college or whatever have you, and we, traveling to our jobs. We have the time in our cars with our commute to listen to it. It's just something that we do, and we're into that. Like I said, some of the younger demographic they get in, and I have a few people that I know are older, but for the most part, it's pretty much 18 to about 32. That's pretty much my audience, black, white, Chinese, no matter what color. And ironically enough, my biggest following on like even my Instagram and places like that is in California. Who would have thought?
Yeah. That's funny you say that, because like, I went to this panel not too long ago where they were talking. They compared the internet and social media to the new streets. Man, you can really be anywhere. You can be everywhere at the same time in anywhere, because like these cats, they from Miami. They make beats, they producers and things, but they were saying most of their fan base is in Paris, and meanwhile they're living in Miami. So for you to say LA, that's not really even. That's very feasible nowadays. Like, you can be loved all over the world for the most part. But I just think it's funny how the internet works nowadays. You got people who are still scared of it. Some people who still misuse and abuse it. Especially us being millennials, there's plenty of ways that we can abuse the internet, social media, with it being at our hands like this. So how do you stay focused in a world that's so driven by social media? Like, how do you decipher the time that you need to be on social media to make your posts and things like that to the times that you just find yourself on social media bullshit?
Well, to be honest with you, the discipline is the key, but that for me goes especially back to being sick. Disciplining myself, even when I was in college, I was sick the entire time I was there, on and off of flares. So discipline yourself, hey, I need to get off this to get this work, I need to get off this to do that. And so it's really more so about how bad do you want it, because realistically, in hindsight, we all know we can hop on social media whenever we want. We can roll up out in our bed, middle of the night, post, a tweet and leave. So for me, it's more or less about, even right now during my days, I'm home most of the day and I'm attached to a machine. So I have to be even more disciplined because I know, hey, 12 hours of your day are dedicated to this machine. So it's like, all right, if I got a right to get this done or I got to do the podcast, my phone is down. If I got to put on do not disturb, whatever it is. So it's more so, like I said, how bad do you want it? Because, you just got to say so. Social media is always going to be there because it really is. This ain't going nowhere. We getting more stuff. Like I said, Instagram is getting bigger. Snapchat, everything is only getting bigger. Nothing is slowing down. Facebook, even with, that whole debacle, it's getting bigger. So you tell yourself, it's always going to be there. Discipline yourself.
Now, are you able to multitask while on the machine as well?
I am now. In the beginning, that wasn't possible, so I would just, cut myself over. But now, yeah, because you know what to expect. I'm pretty well versed with working Twitter now and Snapchat and Instagram, Facebook. So once you figure out how to work things, yeah, you can do it. And then again, you just have to know, okay, this is my goal. Because a lot of times you don't sit down and set nothing up. That's when you'll find yourself, like you said, BSing on Instagram for what you think is 20 minutes, 2 hours.
Right. Yep. BSing for 2 hours. So it sounds like you got tons of discipline already. Like your mindset is in the right place, and you offer a lot of hindsight and insight for people who aspire to be like you and have their own podcast. Where do you see Negro Please in the next year or two? Short term. These are like short term goals that you have to meet.
In the next year or two, I assume it's going to get a lot bigger, especially because by then I plan on doing the stand-up comedy. And as much as I would like to think I do pretty well with Negro Please, I think stand-up comedy, I think I can do even more, because not only can I reach more people, I can reach different people. Because that's the thing with the podcast. You don't necessarily know if you're reaching different people with the podcast, but if you're going to open mic night, you're seeing different people. And if it's like, hey, if this joke keeps making these guys laugh and those guys laugh, it's like this thing must be kind of funny. You got 70 different people laughing. So I think once I build up with that, I think, it'll be kind of a byproduct is that Negro Please only going to get bigger. And then, like I said, that's when the merchandise comes out. Like as we speak, just design and making sure, you want things to be as good as they can be. Because I feel like I don't want the merchandise to be underwhelming when I feel like the show is doing good. Like I don't want to have thousands of followers and the merch is like, You know what I mean? I just want it to be a product that I'm proud of. So I'll take a little more time to get that done as long as it's good.
Right, I feel you. You're not setting for no mediocre, basically.
Right.
Where is so you did say you have content on YouTube as well, right?
I do. I'm actually putting together more content for YouTube because in the beginning with my Instagram videos, I thought these are gonna be too short, but now I'm seeing a lot of people thought minute videos on comic stuff or 2 to 3 minute videos. So yeah, definitely gonna be doing that. There's stuff that I haven't released necessarily to my Instagram that I'm gonna put out there. Stuff that I have released, but this is a microwave, thing. There's old videos that are still funny that I know people never saw. There's stuff I have like clips from Vine that I'm gonna piece together because I do edit some of my own videos and things like that. So there's definitely more coming. Definitely more coming.
So I remember listening to a motivational video with Will Smith, right? And he was talking about how he values this quote that he hears often from members of the Marine Corps, and that's everybody want to go to heaven, but not everybody want to die. When you hear that quote, what does that embody for you? What does that really mean to you? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
For me, it's more or less about a lot of people seeing the outcome, but it's like, man, if that's what I got to do to get it, I'm not sure. Actually, somebody who comes to mind is buddy of yours, Will, with Bonnie Brewer. I'm sure when he decided to revamp, it was like, that was his moment where it was like, do I want to go to heaven? Because he knew what it took to get there. It was like, man, I lost all this money. And some people might say, man, he lost time. I'm sure some people like, man, you a fool. But look at him now. It was worth it to go through dying, I guess you could say, to come out of rebirth. And now you 500,000 up. You know what I mean? So I know with myself, I look at a lot of things in life, period, kind of through that lens, like how bad do you really want it? And is going through what you know is going to go through, is it worth it? And if it is, more power to you. In his case, it was clearly worth it. I know he's glad he stuck with it. For myself, I would say I feel that going through with this and even I feel like it's worth it.
Yeah, and I would say in most cases it's worth it. Like we owe it to ourselves. Like you know, you gotta want it. You gotta want to be great in what you want to do as much as you want to breathe. Like that, and that's how you find like most people who are. I hate using the word success because me and my buddies talk about this whole concept of success and failure and how it's very problematic. But just for the sake of the conversation, we all want to define our success, but it's like we're not willing to put in the work that's necessary. So it's like when we look at people that are successful, we try to compare their success to our success when it's not really even the same. That's why I don't even think we should even use the word success anyway. But you're absolutely right. Like everybody sees that what it would take for them to achieve what they want to achieve, but then they let it sidetrack them and discourage them from really going at it because they're just not really willing to put in the work. So
I think
shout
too,
out
we
to
don't
people like
see enough of the work. To be fair, because I mean, like I said, even I know myself. I know a lot of times with certain things, that was why the podcast was big too. Because I was like, man, I feel like a lot of people don't see enough of the work, enough of what it actually takes as far as even graduate. You know, like a lot of people know I did fairly well. I finished #2 in our class. It wasn't easy, but if you don't know me, it's like, it looked like that guy cruised through it. But you know what I mean? Like to see the actual work that went into it, it's like even if you were like, yeah, man, I wish I had a GPA like yours. It's like, okay, this is what it took. You still want it?
hmm
You know what I mean?
so
And if you do, great.
yeah, and go more into, like while we're talking about like this is all stuff that's behind the scenes. Like people love to see the Negro Please, the Talented Tuesdays. They love to see these shows as like as they're up and running, but nobody thinks about what happens behind the scenes. So like talk more about what goes on behind the scenes. Like you already talked about some of the sacrifices you had to make, but go more into detail like the grit that you had to put in to make an episode of Negro Please become a reality week in, week out.
Well, I mean, well, first off, like I said, this is more behind the scenes stuff. If you don't know, for the most part, from February last year to now, I've been in the hospital at least once a month, every month. So when I started Negro Please, in my head, I was like, all right, man, it's inevitable. You're going to end up in the hospital for a few of these episodes. What are you going to do when that time arises? So it was more about, you know, like I said, when you're in there, first of all, your mind is on the hospital. If you've never been to the hospital, there's bells and whistles, there's people coming in. So it's hard to focus enough on getting healthy. It's a lot harder now to focus on, all right, now I got to do something behind my computer. I got to research, I got to read. And then, like I said, so that was really, you know, the hard part is, all right, I got to research, I got to bang this out. And then a lot of times I was, you know, in excruciating pain. So I'm taking, you know, pain meds, which a lot of people know, they make you loopy, make you a little delusional. Sometimes your mind wanders. And I've done a few of those episodes high, but I remember being in those moments. And I feel like episode 2 specifically, if you go back and listen to Negro Please, it was probably one of the most honest episodes I ever had on the show. And it was just because I just remember being relaxed. And I was like, so what if they know? You know,
Yeah.
maybe somebody be like, I can relate.
hmm And then share with people that just tuned in, like where they can find most of your content, like the episodes of Negro Please.
Oh, Negro Please, if you have an iPhone, you go into your podcast app right now. Negro Please with Matt Corbin. I'm going to pop up me and the silhouettes of these women probably cursing me out. But you're going to see it. You can go tune in there. If you have an Android, iHeartRadio app, same thing. Go to podcast, type in Negro Please with Matt Corbin. We'll be on Spotify very soon. And if you really don't want to use any of those, Spreaker.com is the actual thing I use. And it's speaker with an R, Spreaker.com. Negro Please with Matt Corbin, you go in there. That's the main site. That's my host site. But yep, those two, iHeart and the iTunes podcast, work perfectly fine too.
So have you ever thought about things that you can implement during your show that may be like that would bring in funding? Like have you ever reached out to like different kind of organizations for like funding towards the show, or even like clothing lines that may even want to like send you a shirt or something to market their shirt or anything like that?
I'm glad you asked about that. That's actually something. Obviously, being in Allentown, even though it's a small town, people, local brands. So that's what I'm starting with. The guy with the tattoo shop. I'm gonna start with stuff with them in season 2. And there's a guy with a clothing line called OTR, Only the Realest. Y'all can follow him on Instagram too and start with that. But as far as new features, I'm glad you asked that. So last time, like I said, people had DM'd me and they asked me the questions, but I thought it'd be cool, especially being a kid born in the 90s, to have people leave me voicemails. Because you can very easily on the new iPhones, you can take the voicemail and I can add that clip and, I can enhance it to sound better and clearer. Because some people, they like their names on there, but for the most part, they don't. But it's like, hey, leave me a voicemail. I'm going to keep it and I'm going to put that bit in there. And I don't know, it just gave it a different feel. I think it was just something new, something, more creative, something more interactive. Because like I said, people, they do like to interact. And that's, that's your best way. Hey, to know I'm going to probably use what you give me on the show is dope.
I feel that. So, hey, So for y'all, I only had like two more questions left for Matt, so feel free to add some of y'all questions and concerns in the comment section below. Make sure you keep them positive. But we're gonna go on for like 5-7 more minutes. So get those last questions in there. But my question for you is, Matt, this is a question that I ask every week to all of our guests that we have on the show, and that's basically the red pill or the blue pill. So the red pill, you take this and you go forward 10 years, but you have $5 million in your bank account the day you wake up. 10 years later, $5 million. You take the blue pill and you go back 10 years, but you know everything that you know now. Which pill are you taking?
I'm going back 10 years. I'll have way more than $5 million if I go back 10 years. Just as far as just even certain stuff. The only thing I really think I might still not be able to change is stuff with my health, but possibly I think I could do some stuff to maybe target it a little better 10 years back, because that would put me at about 2 years before technically all of this started. So yeah, with that knowledge of how to make money, and think about it, that means I would know how the internet is about to bubble and all of that stuff. I would stay more disciplined with that, because I'm gonna be honest, I used the internet back then, but I wasn't disciplined on it because I still had hoop dreams. I was nice at ball. I figured I'd go overseas. I wasn't tall, but nah. Don't get me wrong. 10 years ahead with $5 million is great, but nah. I'd rather go 10 years back. I could fix so much.
Yo, and I'm so glad that you mentioned the hoop dream. So like, y'all bear with me because I want to have this little quick conversation with Matt. Like with the hoop dreams and our kids growing up to thinking, only having that, you're good at basketball, so you might as well just go all out on basketball since that's the only thing that you're good at, but then what happens after the hoop dreams don't fall through? Exactly. So what's some advice that I always give, like the kids that I mentor is, this is not about, even though they're playing basketball, I tell them it's not about basketball. Like, this is only one aspect of your life that you're good at. Doesn't mean that this is the only thing that you're good at. So your goal in life should be to be good at all things, to be great at all things that you're good at. So when you tell them that, you kind of like trick their mind into thinking, I'm good at ball, but what else? Like, try and point out those things. What else can I be good at? So like, what's some advice for the kids that what your experiences of having the hoop dreams? Would you say that being so stuck on that might have hindered your growth just a little bit, even though you still show impeccable amounts of growth for our age group and everything like that? But would you say that hindered you a little bit in terms of thinking like that's the sole thing that you could do?
No, it definitely did. My mother, she actually, as much as she did like me playing basketball, she would often tell me that she felt like I could do better. Because I graduated high school, I did okay. Could I have done much better? Yeah. And when I went to college, I proved that, because it was like when I really buckled down. So yeah, definitely I think being optimistic was great, but I think being realistic to an extent was important, because had I known the realistic numbers and my chances of even going overseas, because that was my thing. I thought I was so smart and ahead of the curve in my 11th grade year, because I was like, man, I ain't trying to go to NBA. They only got 400, 500 players. I said, I'll go overseas. There's a bunch of countries. But what I didn't realize is that they're not necessarily coming over here scouting for us, just like on the flip side, we're not necessarily going over there scouting them for the NBA. So your chances are slim. I realized, hey, you need an agent. I realized, even just AAU ball and doing good in tournaments, like there's so much more to that. So I would definitely tell a kid that if you are going to be good at basketball, let's say you're playing on the high school team and all that, use this as a tool. Use this as a tool to get you maybe free tuition for college. Use this as a tool to get you, possibly a spokesperson for something. Because I know a lot of people who graduate, play all 4 years at a Villanova or Michigan, and they don't go to the league, but, they're a spokesperson for Pepsi or they work in this, but they use that basketball as a tool to get them a free education. They met people that, I would have never met, because let's say I never buckled down in my grades. I would have just been a kid who played basketball, who never made it, never went to college, never met nobody, never learned to speak. You know what I mean? I'd be out here completely lost. But yeah, you let kids, like you said, understand that it's just a tool in a whole box full of other tools that you got to use to put this house together or whatever you're going to build. And yeah, you go from there.
Right there. So, this is your time, really, Matt, to plug yourself in there. Again, remind people where they can find Negro Please. Remind people where they can find you at, or your personals. You got any other accounts that you want to share as well? This is your time to plug yourself in.
I appreciate that. So, as we mentioned earlier, Negro Please with Matt Corbin. I'm on the iTunes, Apple Podcast app. You go to your podcast app on your phone, click that, go in. iHeartRadio app as well. Podcast tab, Negro Please with Matt Corbin. We're days away from Spotify. Spreaker.com. That's Speaker with an R is the original host site. And then, of course, you can follow me on Instagram, Raheem the Dream. You can follow me on Twitter, Raheem the Dream. The only place I'm not Raheem the Dream is on Snapchat. I'm Raheem1214. And if you know the guy who's Raheem the Dream, let him know that I'll buy the name from him because I needs that. Other than that, like I said, I'm pretty personable. Anything you want to know, you check in with me. As far as the comedy thing, like I said, it's coming soon. So if you're in the tri-state area, you'll probably be the first people that have the opportunity to see me because, like I said, I intend to target Philly. But again, these next 1 to 2 years, I plan on being all up and down this East Coast. And like I said, anything you need help with, podcast-wise, I'm pretty much an open book. Any questions, whatever. Like I said, make sure y'all follow Q, Kai Speaks. I don't know if he ever shouted himself out on this. It's QUIY.speaks. So, yeah, make sure y'all shout him out and follow his foundation. Good brother. Like I said, from Cheney, smart man. And Talented Tuesdays, keep checking in because it ain't just me. It's a bunch of dope individuals from all over the country that he's well connected with. And, yeah, this is good for us, y'all.
Yeah, we gonna keep working at it, Matt, for sure.
Yeah, appreciate you for having me on.
Always sharing the light, shining the light high, talking to us about your podcast. This is stuff that we need to hear, For y'all who don't know, this is your first time on Talented Tuesdays. The whole purpose of Talented Tuesdays is for us to bring people like Matt on the show on a weekly basis to help our youth see that, you don't always have to be, you're good at basketball, you're good at rapping and dancing and things, but those don't always have to be the only things that you're good at. You can be good at making podcasts. You can be good at being an actress or an actor. You can be good at being a doctor. I had a doctor on the show a couple weeks. Shout out to my man TJ that also commented on here as well. So, that's Talented Tuesdays. This last part is basically, we were talking about local businesses and everything like that and supporting the local businesses. Right now, I'm rocking my man Kyle's shirt, Black Love. Shout out to Royal Pieces. That's Royal, ROYAL Pieces, PEACES. On Instagram and Twitter, you can find them on there as well. So check out their page as well, see what kind of food. He's out there in our communities, basically instilling little affirmations into the youth. Telling them that things like they're royal, telling them that they came from kings and queens. Little things that they need to hear instead of seeing the things that they always used to. You feel me? So, shout out to Royal Pieces. Shout out to you again, Matt, for getting on the show. I really appreciate you. Shout out to everybody who just tuned in. This is Talented Tuesdays. I'm your host, Kai Speaks, and that's really all that we have for y'all this week. I appreciate y'all.
Tears are temporary, y'all. I'm out.